Love podcasts, hate nonsense. It's the Politics Show podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh!
Monday morning.
I was going to crow like a cockerel, but look, that's not a cockerel. That's a hen.
Yeah. Oh.
They're different.
Sorry, please. Well, give me a cockerel then.
Well, cockerels go cock-a-doodle-doo.
Is that how they say
They
it?
can't
Yeah.
enunciate it like that,
Yes,
can they?
and
I
hens
don't
go
think
cluck.
they say it like that. How do you
You
think?
make your cockerel
Hens
noise.
go cluck-cluck.
Make your cockerel noise.
Cockerel go cock-a-doodle-doo. But that's the more obvious poultry morning association.
Poultry.
Yeah. Rather than poultry.
Very good.
Hello.
It's Monday morning.
Yes.
We're doing daily podcasts.
Yes, it's like the election.
It's a brave new world. Mm-hmm. Delicious. And boy, has there been some news this weekend, fellas. There's an enemy within. Mm-hmm. Free speech is under attack.
Holy shit.
Yeah, big stuff.
They don't let you go on podcasts and talk about poultry anymore, do they?
No,
Not since bird flu.
can't make a chicken noise anymore.
No.
Get accused of being speciesist.
Or inaccurate.
How were our weekends before we do talk about the death of free speech?
They're good, thank you. I saw the best band in the world.
Los Campesinos.
Absolutely. They were
I
excellent.
thought you were going to be like, because Marabou State were playing last night. I was like, please don't say it's Marabou State.
Why Marabou
Because I
State?
just saw they were playing yesterday.
He's obsessed with Los Campesinos.
They're the best band in the world.
You've made that.
Why-
I'd say it's probably your most commonly held take on the podcast. I think
Yeah,
you've said it like
so.
4 or 5 times.
I think it's my longest held opinion,
Yeah.
I would say.
Were there any Pol Joe heads there?
If there were, they were keeping very stum. I imagine I was surrounded. But they thought, tell you what, I'll let Ed enjoy his evening.
It's the whole band, massive Pol Joe
They
heads.
they called me onto stage and said, podcast. No, stop.
Let me stay in the moment.
No, you play the guitars, guys. It's all about, stop it.
Where was it?
The Troxy
Oh, nice.
in Limehouse.
Favourite song?
Favourite song was probably By Your Hand.
What do they do in the encore?
They had a 6-song encore.
Six.
That's gratuitous.
Well, the whole thing, they're allowed to be, I think.
That's not an encore.
It is an encore.
That's just part of the set.
They're self-produced. They're entirely self-produced, entirely independent, and they sold out like a few thousand cap venue. I think they're allowed to be self-indulgent.
I agree with Ava. It sickens me now that the encore is part of the show.
It sickens you.
Yeah, genuinely it does. The old days where there would be an encore if the show was so emotionally explosive, the crowd is going nuts, and they go, do you know what? We'll go out. We finished our set. We'll just play some covers, or we'll do something that we're working on, rather than even now. Like the band leaves the stage, the house lights don't come on.
No.
Everybody knows they're going to come back.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You could. I suspect if the audience didn't even make a noise, the band would still come back, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it's not a real encore.
It's performative.
Yeah, it is well, I suppose the whole thing's performative, isn't it?
No, but a performance is not necessarily performative.
True.
The woman standing beside me during the opening song had FaceTimed someone, and the person that they were FaceTiming was speaking, and the woman had turned the volume down on her phone, so I could hear the person speaking over the music, and I lost all patience with
Did
her.
you say, can you turn that
I
down?
didn't. Well, internally,
No,
I lost all
he hit her.
patience,
Yeah.
and everyone cheered. Podcast.
I was wearing a kimono and had a cricket bat. That sounds like a sound issue at the Troxy. I don't think you should be able to hear someone FaceTiming over.
But then it was like
music.
Imagine the music, like the phone was here, like next to me. It was
No, I'm not sure about that. I'm not confident.
no.
You shouldn't be able to.
Well, they
hear
had a
that.
special. Just tell you about the gig now. They had the special arrangements with a string section and a horn section, which they don't normally do, which is cool. It's really cool. How were you guys' weekends?
I was ill,
Oh,
so uneventful. Ava, how was yours?
Fine.
There we are.
cool. Anyway, back to mine.
Tell me more about the set. Okay, should we talk? Well, let's get into the weighty matters of the day.
Well, let's stay on Los Campesinos, because was there an enemy within at the Troxy?
Yes, that woman standing beside me. I would consider her my mortal enemy.
Do you think that's who JD Vance was talking about
Absolutely.
at the Munich security
And I
conference?
don't even, there should be attacks on free speech. That woman should not have been allowed to do that.
Who do you think he was talking about when he speaks about an enemy within? Because when I first heard it, it could be two. Like, it could be immigrants, but it could also be cultural Marxists.
Liberal Democrats?
Yes. It's the Lib Dems. It's the fucking centrists.
Get off the roller coaster, Davey!
Yeah.
Kind of mad, isn't it, that the Vice President of the United States stands at the Munich Security Conference and says that the greatest threat Europe faces is an enemy within and a backsliding on European sort of Enlightenment values, while there is a land war happening in Europe.
Yep.
Yeah. In tandem with that, you've got it's quite dangerous that AP got banned from the White House press conferences for challenging the president.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the spokesperson. And it's like, listen, oh, so you're telling me that you turned up to a press conference, said something a bit out of line, and then you're not going to be invited back? Welcome to PoliticsJOE.
You're on our side.
Oh, now you get it.
Yeah, they got a lot more support than we do from the wider press community.
Where are our brothers and sisters?
Where were AP when Paul Joe fell?
Yeah, no, but truly, I saw a lot of people tweeting about it over the weekend, and I was like, where were you when we were banned from Conservative conference?
See all the journalists who have walked past me outside of events.
There he is
And then
again.
they go, this is very dangerous for free speech. Oh, I can't speak, sorry.
No, but you are totally right. I'm so glad you've made the point, because it might be banning news agencies from press conferences, the reasons for which I saw something as well that they haven't started referring to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America yet, and that was potentially another reason why they've been uninvited. Or they've placed gag orders on federal employees so they can't speak publicly about the sort of the Doge activity that's going on. And then you're standing on this stage talking about how you want to be a champion for free speech and all these like egregious breaches of it that are happening in Europe. So, same way you look at Kemi Badenoch, who's trying to insert herself into this conversation over the weekend with that piece she wrote in the Telegraph lamenting her concerns about lack of free speech. It's hypocrisy of the highest order, right? Because she voted for the Police Crime Sentencing in Courts Act, right? That introduced draconian prison sentences for political protests that were too loud. Her government that banned the introduction of quote unquote anti-capitalist materials in schools. Like, these people don't care about free speech. They use it as a Trojan horse for the issues they care about. So with JD Vance, for example, it's like these freaks who are turning up and praying outside abortion clinics. It's like, you have impinged on that man's free speech. He doesn't care about the protesters that are getting these like insane prison sentences for walking down roads. He doesn't care about any of the actual sort of material attacks that are happening on free speech. It's entirely a political vehicle.
Can I just correct you?
Please.
I don't think it's fair that these people who've been silently praying outside abortion clinics are arrested because they just happened to be outside an abortion clinic. And they while simultaneously having a background in anti-abortion campaigning.
We've all bumped into a friend before.
Yeah, yes, of course.
And a catch up.
This was a new development in prayer for me, because I didn't realise it worked like an induction hob, and it had to be in contact with the thing that you were praying about. I thought the whole point of prayer was you could do it anywhere.
No,
it was convenient.
We've all
like at home, at church.
We've all seen, like evangelical pastors like praying with their hands on
God,
someone.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
That's a lot more effective. So what they should ideally be doing is be face against the glass of the abortion clinic.
That's why they had to introduce the buffer zones, because there were like millions of evangelicals pressing their faces up against the abortion clinic.
And speaking to them. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
There was one of these people, I don't want to name them because I can't be bothered, but there's one of them. One of them goes to these abortion clinics and they will convince the partner to go back inside and say, tell her not to get it. They'll do this. And then when they're arrested for it, they're like, but I was just praying. I was only praying.
Yeah, and this is it. First of all, who are these people that are doing the silent praying? And quite often, if you ask them, or you ask, for example, students that are out flyering about abortion on university campuses, 9 times out of 10, they're quite often Americans who are being paid for by American organisations to come here and campaign around this issue, because broadly speaking, like, abortion is a settled issue in Britain, despite the best efforts of organisations like this. And that is because our civil society broadly is secular, right? Like, we're very happy. We don't want or need some religious freak deciding that they're going to pray for your unborn baby, right? And in the same way, on a personal level, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but obviously there's that video this weekend of that guy who burnt the Quran, like getting attacked by a bloke with a knife and like getting kicked in the street. In the same way, like, I'm okay with you being religious privately. The second you introduce it into the public sphere, i.e. you're trying to pray outside abortion clinics, or you're attacking people in the street with a knife because they burnt a Quran, which is, don't get me wrong, like I would say, distasteful. I don't think you deserve to be stabbed for doing it, and I certainly don't think it's a criminal offence to do it either.
Oh, you don't think it's a criminal offence to burn the Quran outside the Turkish embassy?
No. I think if it was outside a mosque, I think you're getting towards like public order offence at that point.
Incitement to violence.
But why do you think he was doing it? You think he was doing it just for the fun of it, just for the hell of it?
I think he was doing it to be like incredibly provocative,
Yeah, which I would suggest is incitement. No?
Well, I think because it was outside the embassy and it was sort of a political protest in that way. Look, the thing we're talking about here, and with all of this, with about free speech, with about incitement to violence, with about hate speech, I appreciate like it's a grey area. There aren't like clear lines, and we'll probably sit on these things differently. But for me, I think the bar for like a public order offence for doing something like that has to be quite high. I think broadly speaking, doing it outside an embassy, not quite the same. I think doing it outside a mosque where you're literally going to like the site of where the people of this faith are, and you're deliberately doing something incredibly provocative. At that point, I think there's a pretty strong case for incitement. I think there's a pretty strong case for a public order offence. But if you're just in like a random street outside an embassy doing it as a protest, I'm not sure it's quite there for me in the same way.
I'm not confident on that line of thinking, but perhaps we can return to it.
Yeah.
I did thought it was quite funny that the delivery driver turned up, just gave him a kick and then cycled back off again. I thought that was just quite funny.
What more?
Do they offer that now?
Huh?
Yeah.
Random acts of violence.
Yeah, if you're, that premium subscriber thing, if you do that, you
get a lackey.
They'll dish one out for you.
What I thought was interesting about Vance's speech was he was almost providing a template to movements in Europe or people in Europe as to do these things, stand for these principles, and you will get the endorsement of the Trump White House. You've seen the governments that kind of embody those values already, like Meloni in Italy was invited to the inauguration, Milei. So, and you're tarring quite different figures politically with the same brush, but you are tarring like Scholz, Macron, Starmer, Tusk, like all these people as just like broadly leftist liberals who are the enemy within for protecting liberal democracy, I guess. So there's a carrot for, or encouragement for all these alternative political movements. Like Scholz made the point that there is a firewall against the AfD in Germany because it has its roots in Nazism, and every German should have a moral obligation to stand against Nazism. So, but for the AfD and organisations like it, hearing the encouragement of the vice president on a stage like that, it just provides fuel to the fire almost.
I also, to your point, right, about the diversity of political positions and opinions in Europe, clearly, I had a similar read on it, which was it felt like Vance was like the emissary to like a colonial outpost of the American empire, which they view as a monolith, and is basically like, I will now go and speak to Europe and tell them about the problem with their politics. Because I guess, talking comparative size, whether it's economies, landmass, for America to sort of talk about, I don't know, the politics of Spain or Poland or Germany in isolation, it kind of feels like almost too small time for him to be dealing with. Whereas if he goes and engages with the European Union as a whole, which obviously is, how it's done on trade terms and often on political terms, that kind of makes more sense, because at that point you're sort of getting towards powers of comparable scale and size. And my understanding, and I guess we'll talk about this in the context of the Ukraine stuff as well, is that it's part of that reset towards like the return of great power politics, where it's, the US and Russia having a bilat to decide the future of Ukraine, not involving, for example, any of the European nations, or Starmer trying to do this sort of like bridging exercise between Europe and America. It does have that kind of, dare I say it, Cold War-ish feel.
But why would they be there?
The Europeans.
Can I just pose some like petty playground politics for 1 second?
I love it when you do that, yeah.
You've had a good couple of years now to sit down and discuss these things with Russia, and you haven't done it. Why is it when America decides that they're going to do it, you want to be involved in the meeting? it does look quite childish that they're all crying this morning. Like, we're going to have our own meeting. Like,
We're going to Paris.
yeah. It does look, it just looks incredibly juvenile. And it's like, but where were you? No one stopped you from picking up the phone all of this time.
Can I be fair to Europe?
No.
Oh, here he is.
The Europe defender has logged on. I suppose they weren't in a situation where previously where America was likely to make concessions to Russia. So now if you are so vehemently against concessions to Russia,
I don't
then
agree with you, because they didn't want to.
so?
They didn't want to fund Russia. They've been having Russia. No,
They definitely don't want to fund
They
Russia.
definitely don't want to do that. But they've been squabbling about how much they give Ukraine for a good year now, haven't they?
Yeah. I think it's a product of the change in administration and obviously the change in American policy from not a blank check, but a continuation of aid to the Ukrainians, to Trump entering office and pursuing peace. And his approach to that, I guess, pursuit of peace being bilateral rather than multilateral and involving the European nations. Or indeed Ukraine, actually, which is another thing to think about.
I'm glad they're not invited. I think they've been acting like little pussy bitches the last year or so.
I'm so glad that pussy bitch is back as an insult. I've got to tell you.
Pussy bitches crying about liberal democracy.
Yeah, but like the Europeans have contributed more in military aid to Ukraine than the Americans have, like total value.
No, but hang on, someone corrected that on Radio 4 this morning.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Go on.
There was like,
We should timestamp, but
I'm
leave
gonna
a link
have
to
to
the
get this
timestamp.
right. I'm gonna come.
Can I just cough very quickly while you do that?
Yeah, this is a very niche question to try and Google, isn't it?
Yeah, some total military aid. But look, I think it's interesting, isn't it, that in terms of the UK's foreign policy and geopolitical orientation, the rise of British politics for the last 10-ish years has basically been like, no, we need to look away from Europe and we need to look to America. And the sort of the futility of that
Reaping, sowing.
has been laid bare by the Trump administration.
Way ahead. We're not even competing.
Should we tell the listeners what we're looking at?
No.
No.
Well, okay, but so we're looking at a graph, and there's US military aid, and there's EU institutions, and then there's Germany, there's the UK, there's France, and I'm wondering if this combined total of when you fold Germany and the UK and those other European nations into that EU institutions figure above, does it then equate to more than the Americans?
I'm going to go with, can I go with no? Oh, yeah.
Well, yes, you
oh,
can.
Wait, are you bringing in Denmark, Netherlands, Sweden and France?
Yes. Yeah.
Then yeah.
We need to contact Dear Points of View. We were trying to cite something one of your contributors said on the Today programme.
But I guess in a way, actually, does it matter if one is larger than the other? But if they're comparable, if they're comparable in scale, the point is that the US isn't the only player in this discussion. I will be interested to see what comes out of that sort of Lavrov-Rubio meeting in Saudi Arabia. But
That's the most evil sentence ever.
Yeah.
Lavrov, Rubio, Saudi Arabia. Sounds dreadful.
More words. What other words can we do?
Land for peace. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because
Human
Concert.
rights, football stadium, dry country.
that was good, actually. I enjoyed the Saudi ambassador being like, yeah, no booze at the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Nick. That was you talk about the Nick Ferrari.
Yeah.
The one thing I thought was really funny about that was, do you know how Nick was like, what do you mean you can't even have a drink like at a restaurant, a cafe, like whatever? And the guy's like, we don't feel like we need to change our customs for you. This is how we do things, and you can adapt to that. And it was so interesting to see someone slap back with that.
Yeah.
That's normally what the white man is slapping.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no booze.
I quite liked it. It was like, no, you silly European, you fail to understand that the World Cup is a capitalist enterprise. Yeah. It is not about actually enjoying yourself. It is not about like getting pissed and watching the football. No.
It's you and the lads sitting soberly, getting sunburnt.
Yes, wearing £100 replica t-shirts. Yeah.
I did think about it, and I thought, how funny would it be for like the Saudi Arabian authorities to have to try and deal with like all these drunk Europeans, just like having no concept of like people being
Handless
like
men returning. Just a generation
It's
of
probably
men.
just the way they dealt with the gays in Qatar, which is just like, nope. No, they just took their rainbow stuff off them, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they
like-
did. They kept
They kept taking their flags.
strip searching them for all their LGBT stuff.
Yeah.
Too many colours. Gay?
Just a snappy dresser.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Could it get more evil than Rubio Lavrov in Saudi? I don't know if it can.
I don't know.
But so, here's what I wanted to talk
Yorkshire
about.
Ripper was there.
Like, where are our red lines? Because do you remember a couple of months ago the Russians fired an ICBM at Ukraine without a nuclear warhead, but it was a missile that could carry nuclear weapons if they so chose. And I remember I spoke about it on LBC at the time. I was like, I think we probably need to have a conversation about where we decide we're getting off from here, because is Ukraine worth nuclear Armageddon? No, my humble opinion. How many have to die before we start talking about peace? Like, what's the number, right? Well, what is the pain point for us where we say, do you know, actually, this is no longer worth it? Essentially having rational conversations about peace, that you can't grind the Russian state into submission via Ukraine, that at some point we're going to have to come to a resolution, and that almost certainly that is going to involve the surrender of at least some sovereignty, some sovereign territory of Ukraine in order to secure that peace. Yeah.
I'm just not sure that it should be America leading the conversation.
Can we just go back a little bit, 1 second? We can't let him just say that, all of that, and then just like breeze past it. We can't let him just say that, like, you know, I'm not sure Ukraine is worth nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah.
And then we have to just keep going. It's like the Quran thing. This man's just saying things this morning.
Hot button issue. He's desperate for clicks.
Yeah.
I did genuinely think that George Monbiot moment from Question Time the other day was incredibly interesting.
Chamberlain.
Yeah. Should we play it?
Oh, yeah.
And he's, in your view, showing strength.
Well, there are Chamberlains in every generation.
Oh, here we go.
And this is appeasement. This is direct
So, George,
appeasement
how
of
do
an
you
aggressor,
end the
of
war in
someone
Ukraine?
Just a moment. This is direct appeasement of someone who has moved into a sovereign country, seized its territory, sought to seize the entire country, and it's as if, you know, he'd come to the UK, he'd occupied Kent, Surrey, Sussex, and then somebody else like Donald Trump comes along and says, yeah, fine guys, just live with that, no trouble at all. These people who go on and on about sovereignty, say they're the defenders of sovereignty. When it actually comes to the crunch, they will sell anyone down the river.
So, George, sorry. Yeah.
So George Monbiot there. Why do I never remember this man's name?
Matthew Goodwin.
Matthew Goodwin. That name does not stick in my head. Small Death. What is it? Death of Europe or whatever he wrote.
Douglas Murray.
That was
Strange
Douglas
Death of
Murray.
Europe, yeah.
They're all the same.
They're fellow travellers, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So Matthew Goodwin in the Reform Party, talking about how we don't necessarily have to keep funding the defence of Ukraine, and George Monbiot just perfectly takes him down. You're a man who's so concerned with sovereignty, whatever that may mean, and then when you are actually presented with a nation that actually would like to be sovereign for something other than, you know, just in name only or whatever we've got now, you're like, nah. So you're one of the Matthew Goodwins.
No.
Okay.
Demonstrably not one of the Matthew Goodwins. My question.
PhD.
Yes, famously, yeah.
Is that the only thing?
That's the only thing that separates us. How much blood in the Donbass for sovereignty? And I genuinely, at what point do these high-minded conversations about like what value sovereignty, what price freedom, come into conflict with like hundreds of thousands of people being killed?
This is what they felt about, like, you know, if we were going to annex Kent, like this is how you would feel.
Yeah, and look, and if the Ukrainians want to continue fighting in that way, like, more power to them, like that they can. My question is, how much do we give them? How much do we support them? And clearly there has to be some kind of red line.
100,000 apparently boots on the ground, which, by the way, I think that is my red line, actually. I'm like
British troops in Ukraine.
I think it is.
Yeah. So
I've
there are
spoken
limits.
now. I've actually let you all know where my red line is.
We were talking about this just before we started recording. I don't think we have enough soldiers
No, they'd have to defend
to peacekeep the front
100
the
miles
front-
each.
the front
Working from
line.
home.
Yeah, well, yes. They're all working from home in Finland, that's what I've heard. No, the front line's like 1,000 miles long.
Yeah.
We have 80,000 troops.
Yep.
But that's not enough.
We
And
can't
some,
even
and some of them
control-
are PR.
Yeah.
Some are in PR.
Some of them work in STEM.
Some of them are DEI.
Coordinates.
I think maybe a problem with even drawing a red line on deaths or action is that I do think any concession you give to Putin does just embolden him. And then it actually doesn't stop people dying because it would just be Estonians dying. It would be, Russia isn't just looking for land in Ukraine, it's looking for any land that it considers greater Russia. Like Eurasianism is like the philosophy behind Putin's entire way of governance, and you do have countries along the two that border Russia who are absolutely terrified. So the buck doesn't stop with Ukraine. It's not like you concede these regions to Russia and then the bloodshed stops. I do think more people die, just different people die.
I started laughing because I suddenly was thinking of the kind of anti-NIMBY thing when you talked about the borders. Just move then. Scared? Move.
Move the entire Estonia all the way out.
Move the Estonian border.
Look, I don't think the Estonians are as worried because of NATO membership, right? But I do take your point. I guess that assumes that the Russians haven't paid a price for a couple of provinces of Ukraine, which they absolutely have.
But I don't think Putin cares.
But in that incredibly insightful interview that Tucker Carlson got with,
You're a great guy.
They have shopping trolleys here.
he didn't say he wanted to take more land.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we've been in the business of appeasement for a long time, like Georgia, Chechnya, the horrors that he's unleashed elsewhere.
The Chego silence.
Yeah.
What next? Prime Minister. You are the Putin of the Indian Ocean.
It's actually called the Gulf of Euro now.
What is Mauritius about Russia?
Yeah.
Do you think Starmer's gonna smash it? Do you think he's got?
Sorry.
He's going to attend the Paris summit today with the European leaders. Then he's going to bosh off to Washington, and he's going to sit down with Trump, and he's going to convince Donald Trump to change course.
It does suck that we have the most insipid European leaders.
I know.
Of all time, just absolute charisma pits.
Yeah.
Like Starmer, Macron, Scholz. And hello, Donald. we were all thinking. Oh, it'd be great if you could invite us to the party next time. We will get rid of abortion if you like.
Yeah. And simultaneously, he's also like, oh, and by the way, Keir, thanks for coming, but 25% tariffs on your steel industry.
No!
do you know what I mean?
That's fine.
Mr. President.
More.
The British people will never accept that.
They will. They'll take it lying down. Is he going to? They could have the deal in Saudi could well have happened before he's even made it
breakfast.
to Washington. Yeah.
It's also a bit girly, all of it, isn't it? It's like going to meet with the EU leaders and then being like, all right, I'll tell him. Going off.
I'll go.
Do you know what I mean?
Very prefect
It's all
behaviour.
just it's a bit girly, Prime Minister.
Stop showing off.
Yeah.
No one's impressed. This isn't going to win you the next election, is it? Maybe it will.
Yeah.
If he saves Ukraine.
I think. But in all of this, you actually phrased this, I thought, beautifully, actually, at the beginning of this podcast, when you said, Kerry Badenoch's tried to insert herself in this conversation. All of this is happening. And then Kemi's on the corner of the Sunday Telegraph going, and you can't say anything anymore. No one asked. Honestly, I actually wonder if she didn't put in a press request, if she didn't go to the newspapers with a story, do you think anyone would ask her for comment for weeks?
It's bad. The Conservative Party feels increasingly obsolete,
100%.
doesn't it? Like, it really does. Whether it's within the frame of British political discourse, whether it's in relation to sort of the macro politics of the MAGA movement and how Musk is kind of spotlighting these other right wingers across Europe, whether it's AFD, whether it's Reform.
It's like getting to the spotlight and it keeps missing her.
And he's like talking about the backbench MP for fucking Great Yarmouth, right? And she's like, I am the leader of the opposition. Elon, will you please just talk about me for a second? And he's like, nah, all about Rupert Lowe, baby. On the Lowe train. I feel bad for her. I think she'll be short-lived.
She won't even be awake by now. What is it? We're Monday morning, 10 to 10.
Yeah.
She'll just be staring, I reckon.
Oranges and croissants. Don't achieve nothing today.
What's gone on? 150,000 troops to Ukraine?
I have an opinion. Right.
The Prime Minister has suggested boots on the ground in Ukraine. Maybe I'll take a political position on this by about 2 p.m. today.
I think actually, but the Prime Minister's questions this week, I will of course be asking about free speech on campus. I tried to go to a lecture at UCL and it was cancelled.
Look, I think part of this actually, and I saw it with Priti Patel when Priti Patel got asked on, it was Kunzberg but Derbyshire this weekend, right? When she was interviewed.
I'm a big fan of Derbyshire.
I think she's their best presenter.
Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Why the hell is she not on the Today programme? Yeah. Why the hell?
Missed her show. Victoria Derbyshire show.
They got a couple of newbies on there. Oh, that was great, that show.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
It was really good.
So obviously they cancelled it. Yeah. Newsnight's figures 30% up since they started doing it the way they are.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't. Sorry, I'm not going to say it.
You've been on it since they changed the format.
I love the new format.
Really?
I actually think the new format is better.
Disagree.
I've said it.
Disagree. It's a podcast.
I think that.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. It's debatey, isn't it?
They get good guests on there, and I do think that they've actually got like the. She's got the freedom to go about and do a bit of reporting, and I like Victoria on the ground.
Yeah, she was good at the farmers thing, wasn't she? My point was, when Priti Patel's being interviewed, I was looking at her being like, and feeling sorry for her. It was like, you did not used to have to do this, right? Like, you did not have to do the media round because you were just the Home Secretary. And the interventions you made were when you wanted, and if you wanted to do something in the media, you pick up a phone to someone who was on side and they would be there in a heartbeat. But because you are now in opposition, you have to fight tooth and nail for any inch of media coverage. And so here you are, one of the former ministers, holding on one of the offices of great state, up at 8 a.m. to be interviewed on the BBC. Where,
not even in the studio.
Yeah, you're down the line. You might get like 100,000 people listening.
Yeah,
and then cut and is still in the default mode of that minister, like Secretary of State position, where if a journalist asks you, like Vance says that the enemy within and that threats to free speech are greater than the threat posed from Russia or China. Do you agree with him? And you think in your old mindset you can just stonewall and be like, well, everybody's entitled to a view. And I'm not going to take one because, I'm a government minister and what I say carries weight. She does that, but because she's a shadow ministerial role, everyone's just like, well, Priti, I might suggest you take an opinion on this because that way people will engage with your political arguments. And in the same way that she doesn't get it, I don't think Kemi has quite got it yet. Like, being in opposition is very different to being in government, and that is why they look so bad at the moment. Because in fact, Kemi has only known government, right?
Yeah. Do you remember that she gave a speech? Maybe it was at Tory conference, or maybe in her victory speech. She said they were going to have a lot of fun in opposition. Do you think she's having fun now?
I know that's what you'll ask her if you get the opportunity to do
Are you having fun?
Are you having fun, leader of the opposition? How did you sleep?
Such a pleasure to see you once again. Looking beautiful as always.
If you asked me for £1 million to name her three big policies, I would not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Take the million from me, fellas. I can't do it.
Chagos, that's one.
But what about Chagos? She's not even been clear about but all she said is, why are you doing this, Prime Minister? There's been no constructive thought about what we should be doing instead, right? When Chris Philp is battling Yvette Cooper on immigration, I'm not actually quite clear what they're after there either.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, actually what we did in government wasn't that bad.
They're
That's
still
kind of the
saying
line.
that, aren't they? Yeah.
But this is the thing with the free speech thing.
Yeah.
It's like your government attacked free speech. Like it's the electors are not stupid. Like we've all seen Just Stop Oil. We've all seen the laws about protest and people being put in prison for relatively minor things.
They'll put you in prison for anything.
Yeah, these throwing
For
jokes saying you're
thinking.
English.
Yeah, for saying you're
For
English.
thinking outside an abortion clinic.
I'm going to
Get
say it
thrown in
right
prison.
now.
I go into
Have you read Magna Carta?
I go into a transcendental meditative state whenever I go near a women's healthcare clinic.
Well, yeah,
Because I'm a feminist, that's why.
exactly.
How often are you walking past
Daily.
Really?
Because
Yeah.
he's protesting.
Yeah, you know, like sometimes I'll go on my lunch break. I'll go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just to the abortion clinic.
Shit.
Yeah, protesting. Sorry, no, it's not.
No, not
Praying.
protesting.
It's
Silently
Silently
praying.
praying.
It's because you're trying to meet really emotionally vulnerable women.
I read it in the game.
Initiate contact.
The absolute insanity of all of it, though. But there is there is a limit of free speech. We were talking about this the other day. You were talking about free speech absolutists, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, look. So some people describe themselves as absolutists, which for me is a frankly insane position, because that is, shout fire in a crowded theatre and risk people being trampled to death. That is incitement. That is harassment. And I think, like, broadly speaking, we agree, in our society at least, that there are limits to speech. Now, where we think those limits are is probably the point of debate. Me, for example, I don't think we should have blasphemy laws, but to the point about the Quran or to the point about like people praying, I think that's fine. I also think people can say the most morally disgusting things, be that racism, be that bigotry of another kind. And as long as it remains as speech, I also don't think that's a criminal offence. And I think there might be some people that see that differently from me. And I guess the underlying conversation is about, do we believe speech to be, like, can speech be violent, and is speech enough of a precursor to action to warrant, like, criminal investigation or sanction against it? But, like, quite often these people who will call themselves free speech absolutists, like, very quickly you can just say, all right, say the N-word then. And they won't. And, like, that is the straight, because if you're an absolutist, you will say anything, right? You don't believe that there are limits and conditions on the speech, but they won't, because they think it's a fashionable thing to say. It's not, they don't actually seriously think it. But that's where I am, because I think like social ostracization, like not being able to get a job, I think those are like fair and warranted consequences for people saying horrible things. Mm-hmm. But do I think it's a criminal offence? That's kind of where I draw the line.
I think the former is more dangerous than the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
because then you're
ostracization.
in you're in a court of public opinion rather than like what is actually defined by right and wrong. Because if you just decide that like someone's saying, okay, that guy who burnt the Quran, right? You don't want that to be illegal. You don't think that's a public order offence. So in the eyes of the law, he's done absolutely nothing wrong. But for the next 40, 50 years, he might never get employed because people are too frightened to employ him. I think that's more dangerous of a sentence than telling him it was wrong. But in law.
Is it the converse of that? Is that he wouldn't be employed because he's a dick? Is it like, is that someone from a business perspective you'd want to employ? Someone who has the capacity to do things like that?
Well, that's it for me. Like the idea, I form opinions about like all of the people in this room based on their behaviour around me. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the way we conduct ourselves throughout our lives. Like, if somebody flirts with you, you possibly form a romantic attraction with them. If someone is funny around you, you become friends with them. If someone is racist around you, you stop talking to them, you challenge them, you say, thanks, but no thanks, see you later. Like, that is what I'm kind of aiming at here, is that when people say, oh, like cancel culture, it's gone too far, it's like, I don't think if somebody says something fucking horrible and everyone goes, do you know what, actually, I think you're a twat, see you later, I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. I don't think it's the business of the state to decide what is and isn't like fulfilling those criteria, because you quite quickly get into the like the area of, all right, well, let's start trying to define and set some parameters by which we might achieve a criminal conviction.
There has to be parameters, because I think the converse of that is some of the scenarios that we've been in over the past couple of years where like someone just decides they don't like someone and so they accuse them of being racist, violent, aggressive with no basis to it. And then that word gets spread before you can even like actually work out where that rumour's come from. The rumour's spread so far that that person has become unemployable. I think that is so much worse than actually like having clear parameters defined in law of what is right and wrong.
I think, I guess I'd say it's even worse if it was then partnered with like a criminal conviction at the end of it. If that's what we're saying.
But then I would say if they've got a criminal conviction, that's pretty solid. You just go, well, they've done him for that.
Yeah. Well, I basically just think that the state, the limit of the state is in action. So like, if in your business you discriminate against people based, you operate like a segregated fucking cafe or something. Like that's a very serious like criminal activity, right? If when you're hiring people you discriminate based on their sexuality, like I have a ginormous problem with that. Mm-hmm. For me, I think in the realms of like, I guess the deeper question is like, is being racist criminal? Do you know what I mean? Like if you hold racist thoughts but you don't act on them, if you are a racist person, but you never actually like enact it in real life, is that a crime? And for me, it's not.
Well, no, because that's a thought crime. That's also like, no, that I think we're going too extreme on this argument.
Right.
Because you're saying, right, the man who burnt the Quran the other day,
yeah.
If he just thought about it and never did it, right?
Yeah.
That would not be a problem because you wouldn't have incited violence in a public space. But the fact that he acted on it and went and did it, it's no longer a thought crime anymore. That is an actual crime.
Yeah, but I guess, is it?
Which is where you disagree, yeah.
Yeah. And in that specific instance, I do think where it like takes place matters. I think like if let's say he walked into a mosque and burnt a Quran inside a mosque, like that is, so the thing you've chosen to do something that's deliberately offensive to Muslims, and you've gone to the place where there will be a high density of Muslims.
Yeah, outside the Turkish embassy, that's what you did.
Well, it's not quite this. This is what I'm saying, right? Is that I think
they're letting you be Muslim in Turkey now.
Wait. Is this the Middle Ages? Constantinople has fallen?
Yeah. Do you remember the whole row?
5,000 words on the intricacies of different religious faiths in the Ottoman Empire. Look, I think it's not quite there for me. In the same way, like I think basically what I'm trying to say is I think there should be a high bar on whether or not we judge something to be a public order offence.
Yeah, I think we just differ on. I think the bar is there.
Yeah,
and you are in the gutter.
Yes,
the gutter.
You're in the locker room with Kemi Badenoch and et al.
Imagine if we found out the one who must not be named in his free time was praying outside abortion clinics.
Right. Yeah.
I think we'd be well within our rights to be like, oh, not sure about him.
Yeah.
Should we ease him out of the company?
Yeah, well.
Well, no, because I mean, he would be able to do that and work here.
Yeah, we couldn't ease him out of the company, but would I stop having fun in their company? Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's protest, isn't it? Why should you receive potentially life-saving care? Stupid bitch.
Slut.
Wow.
Slut. That's what I'm saying.
That's a bridge too far, Ed. Bitch, fine.
I'm allowed to say
Look,
slut.
We found it. We found the limit. We found the limit to the free speech,
Found
right?
the limit. Call Claire Fox.
Low-level misogyny,
Claire,
fine.
we found it.
Good news. Can I get Lord Young on the phone, please?
Right, should we...
Yeah, I think we're getting close to wrapping this up, are we? Are we going to do reform, or are we going to talk about some of the projects we've been working on?
I think we can do that again on Wednesday, because do you know why, fellas? There's no PMQs this week.
Well, we'll need something to talk about then.
So let's do it then.
We'll need
Hopefully there's a war or something.
Yeah, we'll need something to talk about every day this week, actually, won't we, with recurrent podcasts?
I think what we should explore on going forward this week is what a work from home training program would look like for a British soldier.
Right. It's Joe Wicks
Yeah.
in his garden.
Ten hot.
Yeah.
Die, Soviet scum!
Go team.
Slava Ukraine!
NATO.
No.
All right, we'll do a round table then. What we've got content wise, what's coming down the pipe, Ed?
I was out with some hunt saboteurs, not this weekend, but the weekend before. It was one of the most fun days I've had. I would have done that without the content, to be honest. It just felt like we're just running around the field, chasing people. It was great.
Just get him to Ukraine stat. Like he's fucking right.
Is that what Ukraine's like?
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly
Oh my
like that.
God.
You're going to have the best time.
Hunters, yeah.
I would be so easily recruited.
There were drones on the hunt sab thing as well, weren't there? So
Yes, they weren't shooting anything though.
Yeah.
Did I tell you what my dad texted me
No.
on the day? So after I texted him saying that shoot's done, all good, and I think he got the really wrong end of the stick because he then replied, "Great, did you kill the fox?" There's also, I've got a story from this as well, in that they're obviously like really radical militant vegans, and I'd brought a sandwich with me, and I realised in the car with them that it was a chicken and bacon sandwich, so I didn't eat it.
Why?
Because I think they would have told me off. They were talking about carnists. We can talk about this when the video is out.
Oh, they're oh, okay.
What have you guys got?
I interviewed Ash Sarkar last week. That'll be out in the coming days about her new book. I think that's very good, very insightful, leading thinker, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even need to say her surname, did you?
No, I probably could have just said Ash, and I think they would have got it. Yeah.
They would have.
Yeah. First, like Keir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're obviously talking about Keir Mather.
Yes.
Or Egan?
Ava. What have you been up to?
Oh, nothing at all.
No.
No.
Lovely to record. Lovely to see you on a Monday morning.
Yeah. It felt like it had some momentum.
Did it?
I think so. I woke up and was like pod in a few hours.
Pod.
I
woke up pod.
woke up podding, desperate for a mic in my mouth.
Give me the mic.
Did you hear he said in my mouth?
Yeah, I did. Better than it, the last place it was.
Yes, I guess.
Spinning round on it. Shall we?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
fine. We'll round it off there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done, everybody.
Absolute pleasure doing business with you both.
Well done.
What plastic do you think is in this cup?
Polycarbonate.
The lining.
I've always thought that. Have you not thought whenever these have always felt, they haven't felt that pure paper?
I would look at a coffee cup like that and think it was pure paper.
Yeah, same. But they've not got a pure paper feel.
No, I agree. Is this still going?
I don't know. See you on the subreddit.
Yes. See you in the subreddit. Bye-bye.